Hello everybody, my name is Maher Muhammad and... Whoa! Well, since I have 400 subs right now, I guess I should review something. Maybe a movie that just came out. A movie that got delayed to this year. A movie in a long-running series. A movie that has the number 4 in it. Well, the universe sure knows what I want. A Hotel Transylvania crash course, if you will. In 2012, we got the first movie, which was in development limbo for a few years, trying to find directors as it went through 6 of them, ultimately ending on Genndy Tartakovsky. You may have known him for making, I don't know, Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and a bunch of others I won't get into right now. Even though the movie was created by someone else, Genndy was the one to add elements of 2D animation to it, like the exaggeration, energy, fluid movement, facial expressions, etc., and just added them into 3D. At the time, this is really impressive since up to that point, most movies made in 3D or CGI mostly try to replicate real life, and mostly try to keep 2D and 3D separate beings. This movie came out and was a smash hit, so a sequel was in order. Next up was Hotel Transylvania 2, and despite finding my copy from the dumpster, it's still a pretty good movie. However, the influence of Adam Sandler is starting to shine here. For those who don't know, Adam Sandler is a movie director who prides on making either bad or bad movies. There was never a gray area. And while he was in the first movie, his influence wasn't that noticeable. But here, you could tell which parts were his idea, like the random remix video of Dracula that Mavis uses to find out that her dad's not taking good care of her child. We also got Dennis here. I have no problem with him. He's a cool character. However, the animation is improving, and you can tell that Genndy is getting more comfortable with 3D software and figuring out how to animate CG things in 2D. The first movie looked a bit plastic and the lighting was a bit off, but here it's starting to take shape. This movie got a bit more critical responses than the last one, but still did well in the box office. So then we got Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation. You can tell that they started running out of ideas because it's now looking at the vacation plot. You know, I could use this as a con, but it took the Addams Family one movie to do this, so I'll give him a pass. If it wasn't for the animation, I probably would not like this movie that much, since it is one of the only few positives about this movie. I know I praised 2's animation, but 3 took it and made it look so much better, now featuring facial expressions. Previously, the animation was more CG models moving fluidly, with the facial expressions being good to decent. But here they are very expressive, especially Dracula, and the fluidity is turned up a little too much. Because there are points where I doubt they have any bones, and if they do, then they must have 1 billion joints to achieve all of this. The movie got around the same reviews as the second one, a little bit lower though, but still made the most money out of the other 2 movies, which means that we got a 4th movie, which is what I'm going to talk about now. So the plot is relatively pretty simple. Johnny doesn't feel like he belongs with his family due to not being a monster. Now if he was smart, he could ask Mavis to bite him, which would actually solve a lot of problems, seeing how since he's a human and his wife and son are vampires, they can and will outlive him someday. But no, instead he chooses magic, well to help a former villain turn good guy Van Helsing. It works, and Johnny's now super hyped to show his wife that he's a monster, and Drac is not, so he tries to turn him back. It fails, and actually turns the other main characters into humans, including Drac. Murray the Mummy turns into an old man, the wolf Wayne turns into a dad who looks like he's stuck to a 6 to 9 job, Blob turns into Jello, and Frank turns into... irrelevant. However, the crystal dolls being used to turn them into monsters into humans and vice versa broke, so now it's time for this movie to become a jungle hunt type thing. Most of the scenes during this time are just Drac being tortured for being human, so I'll only mention them in this sentence. Anyway, the other guys find out that Drac and Johnny went for it, so they decide to find them by also going there. Also, side note, they brought like all of the wolf's kids, but yet didn't bring Dennis or Winnie. You know, Mavis' son and like one of the wolf's daughter. I just find that weird. Anyway, they meet up, but due to how the magic thing worked, people who get turned into monsters slowly become killing machines, so we get to see a scary Johnny for once. However, Drac defeats him with a metaphor. Yes, that actually happened. And after finding the crystal, they all turn back home. But the hotel actually got destroyed while they were gone due to like a monster hamster, and you think that would be another boss fight during this time. But nope, Drac does not want any of this, so he just decides to turn him back in like a second. However, he decides to give the hotel to Mavis and Johnny. Oh yeah, there was a subplot where Drac wanted to retire and give the hotel to his wife, to his daughter, and he and his new wife would go out and do a bunch of other things. But it got silenced, I've forgotten, in the middle of the movie, so I forgot to mention it. Anyway, a year later, Drac sees the hotel we built, realizes that's now a hippie land, and goes screw it, and that was Hotel Transylvania Transformania, aka Hotel Transylvania 4. So that was it, and now let's talk about the animation. Oh my god, the animation is so good. One thing I like about all the Hotel Transylvania movies, no matter how bad the humor gets or what happens, is the animation. You can see the quality go higher and higher with each entry. The first movie was a good stepping stone, but the models felt plastic and not polished. The second movie fixed most of this by giving the characters slightly redesigned to make them not only look better, but also move better. And then the third movie also built upon this by making the facial expressions way more expressive. And this movie feels like the epitome of it. Everything looks amazing with that fancy smancy 180p and 4K, and I can finally see the water on the spider webs. And the movement is just so fluid, I love it. Even though Genndy didn't direct this movie this time, he still worked as an exclusive producer as well as a writer, and I'm pretty sure also wrote the story. And man, the animation is just so good. If it's one thing that Sony Pictures is getting better at with their movies, it's the animation, not trying to be realistic, but more as trying to be exaggerated or stylized. Johnny as a monster looks like a 2D drawing at times, and that's so cool! However, good animation can only bring a movie so far, so let's talk about the pros. Besides the animation, there are some pros with this movie. One thing is how some of the visual gags generally made me chuckle. It felt like it came straight out of a Saturday morning cartoon. I also like the beginning song as well as the flashback. I can't play the song for obvious reasons, but you should check it out. I think Amazon released as a sneak peek. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this, but Amazon picked up the movie for a Prime exclusive after its theatrical release got cancelled due to progeria. Anyway, another thing I liked was Van Helsing. He was a good villain in the third movie, and I'm glad that he was brought back and even got his own basement to do experiments. That's so nice of Dracula. I also like the idea of Drac retiring and giving the hotel to Mavis. It seems like a good way to cap off the series, or if it did continue, maybe in a short series or movies where Mavis and Johnny tries to run it without Drac. I also like Brian Hall's performance as Dracula. Adam Sandler didn't even get to touch this movie, which is a miracle, but because he voiced Dracula in the first three movies, Sony had to get a YouTuber who did voice impressions to voice Drac, and just saying that sentence was really funny to me. I also like the idea of Johnny becoming evil and mean. I never thought that the hipster man could be so threatening, but here we are. I also like the ending where we saw all the monsters help Mavis reach to a point without her touching the light. You need to see the scene to understand what I just said. I also liked how they kept the detail of the invisible man having red curly hair once he became human. And that's all I can really think of, so let's get on to the cons now. First things first, this movie seems to pad out its runtime with random dance segments. And it happens a lot. I know the second and third movie had a dance party at the beginning of their movie, and the first one had one at the end, but it was only for a few minutes, not really used much. But this one pads out for like maybe the entire beginning of the movie before we get to like the rest of it. Like if they had no idea what to do, they just do a random dance segment. It wasn't as bad as the Transform 2 in terms of padding, but I was still able to notice this on my first viewing. It also has its fair share of awkward or cringe comedy, and I hate that kind of comedy in general. It doesn't make me laugh, it makes me feel uncomfortable. The movie also has the downside of the trailer's music being better than the actual music used in the movie. Also, in the marketing and in the posters, we see Mavis with this new costume, and it looks like a robe, and it looks so cool. It felt like we were getting a redesign, and it was actually, like, really cool to look at. And then when it finally came out in the movie, I was so excited to see what they were gonna do with this. It appeared for, like, 1 to 2 scenes, and then Mavis went back to old costume. I don't understand that. It was a build-off that didn't pay off. I also didn't like how Frank was portrayed in the movie as a human. I don't know, he came off as a social media influencer, and it didn't help that awkward/cringe comedy I mentioned earlier. Also, this movie seemed to really like to torture Dracula when he became human. It's weird how much times he got beat up by nature. And it's not like Johnny helped or anything. He literally watched him carry that heavy bag and didn't do anything. He was a giant monster. He could have done it anyway. Mini rant out of the way. Let's get back to the actual cons. Also, I find it weird how Dennis and Winnie didn't have much to do with the plot. I mean, the cast was already crowded as it is, but they really served no purpose whatsoever. It's even weirder when Mavis leaves Dennis at the hotel and the wolf mom leaves Winnie at the hotel, despite bringing all the rest of the siblings, like I mentioned in the plot. Also, considering how the last two movies were kind of building up like a little bit of like a relationship between them, you'd think the movie would expand on it a bit more besides one reference that took 3 seconds. And it was in a dance scene as well. But I'm gonna stop talking about this because they're kids and I don't want to be labeled as a... So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about kids falling in love. Also, the movie had a lot of butt jokes. There was no need for it. Sony, stop. I also didn't like how they threw away the side plot of Dracula retiring. It brought up a few times at the beginning, but then it was forgotten until the end. I also find the setting of South America a bit boring, and I'd much rather have another movie take place in the hotel and not need the plot to take outside the hotel, because why not? It's called Hotel Transylvania for a reason. And that's all the cons I got. Let's move on to my final thoughts. So, overall, I think this movie is pretty good. It's better than the third one, but not as good as the first or the second. According to a few sources, this is the final Hotel Transylvania movie, and I can see some of that sprinkled in, like how the hotel was destroyed and then rebuilt, or Drac giving the keys to Mavis as he is retiring. But this is Sony, so who knows, they might continue the series without the original creators. Personally, I wouldn't mind a few more short films, not feature-length movies. They made a few before, and I feel like 6 to 11 minute short films would be enough for this series, as of right now. Because you can tell they started running out of ideas, and this might be the end of the series in general. Now that Hotel Transylvania is over, what series should I talk about next? I got it. Hello everybody, my name is Matt Muhammad, and have you ever heard of the open season movies?